Peter Jennings and a couple of other people, they were kind of discussing among themselves, and they were pondering, wow, the tallest buildings in the world, and yet there's almost no rubble. Where did it go? And George Stephanopoulos comes back and tells us that, well, a volunteer explained it to him. A volunteer who we don't know anything about. We did hear a name. We didn't hear if he's an expert in anything or he's got any bona fides or for anything. Mm-hmm. He's just a volunteer picking up pieces of whatever was left, which wasn't very much. And he said, this volunteer, as he explained it to George, it just fell down, okay, mm-hmm. and disintegrated.
Which is...
No, wait. It disintegrated. Now, I'm a big proponent of E equals MC squared.
True.
I'm just one of those dumb fuck idiots that, well, you know, when Einstein came up with that E equals MC squared, that it has to go somewhere. So it didn't disintegrate.
Right.
All right. So when you hear disintegrate, that says to you that it disappeared. It's gone.
Ridiculous.
Okay. And yet, he's close. It didn't disintegrate because it did go somewhere.
It did go somewhere.
It didn't go at the base of where the buildings were. That's one place it didn't go.
But
the question is, why didn't it go there?
Right. But when you think about... Okay. You're a smart guy.
Yes. Well, tell me what disintegrated, or...
I don't think anything disintegrated.
How about the word pulverized?
Pulverized, that's a good word.
How about the word pulverized?
So...
Let's just say that the World Trade Center pulverized.
Okay. If you had...
It turned to dust.
If you had a stack of cheese... Swiss cheese that was mostly holes.
Mm-hmm.
That was very typically hollow. And you have a structure that is hollow, besides walls through the inside. Swiss cheese is a good analogy, but probably not the best. And if you were to take something on fire
mm-hmm.
and throw it in, say the Swiss cheese was flammable, which most walls are.
So Swiss cheese would melt.
No, but say Swiss cheese was flammable, like wood. What happens to wood? If you burn a pile of wood,
yeah,
where does it go? The ashes fall to the ground. Now, is it the same composition or weight or anything as the wood when you put it in before you put it into the fire?
There's a major difference between wood and stone.
Right. No, and I'm not disagreeing with that. But when were the Twin Towers built?
They were built in the 60s into the 70s. I have a better question, though. The lobbies of both World Trade Centers 1 and World Trade Centers 2 were completely done in marble.
Okay.
Marble. One of the hardest substances known to man.
Right.
Marble.
Right. But you're still talking about the structure of the Swiss cheese.
Wait. Marble. No, we're not talking about soft cheese here.
No, I know. But if you had how many floors? But how many floors were on? How many floors in the Twin Towers in each building? Prospectively.
110.
110. So even if you had 110.
How many floors? How many stories tall would you expect 110 floors to compact into?
Made out of 3 inches?
I'm sorry?
Made out of how many inches each? Floors are supposed to be made out of 3 inches or more. I don't expect them to be made out of a foot. So if you took 110 floors at 3 inches each...
What are you talking about?
You have 300 inches of flooring.
I see.
But, hold on, and this is all theoretical, but you have to remember, did these places have basements?
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned the basement, because the basement directly underneath the street level is untouched. There are
Okay, and I didn't know that, and I don't know, and that's why I'm asking.
So if it fell into something, I'd like to know where that is, because there's no evidence of that.
But even if you had 3 inches of marble floor at 110 floors each...
No, not marble.
But just saying, I mean, coming back to the Swiss cheese theory, what you have something is a grand structure made out of steel. Okay. And, the steel, I assume would have, I don't know what would have happened to steel, but the insides, I mean, you're talking about a hollow, technically, compared, and everything in perspective, and compared to the size of it, what would you have? You wouldn't have a whole lot of...
Every floor was concrete. Hold on. Every floor was a 4-inch floor of concrete.
Okay, but 4 inches even on 110, 400, you're talking about 400 inches. Spread out, because it all collapses and spreads out through dust. I mean, you have to remember that, concrete...
Well, let me ask you, the World Trade Center was on fire at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Why would the bottom of the World Trade Center do anything but just collapse?
Right. I assume it has to do with a weight and distribution issue.
The weight and distribution? Well, I can tell you that any architect worth his salt will tell you that the World Trade Center should have held up what was on top of it.
Right.
So, where you had the plane go in, let's just say that you had 3 floors that were destroyed.
Right.
And the World Trade Center at the top, 40 floors, came crashing down into the 80th floor.
Right.
Okay? The 80th floor should have held everything up.
But, I mean, how much does a plane weigh with luggage and passengers?
How much does a plane weigh?
With luggage and passengers. A full plane.
Luggage and passengers. Well, whatever it was that hit those buildings.
Which was large.
The fuel, well, they were large. However, I don't know what you're trying to say with their weight.
If you take a plane, and they took off from JFK, right, and they flipped around and they came toward the World Trade Centers, right? So, if you had a full plane on a transatlantic flight, which means you probably, most likely...
They took off from Boston, but they didn't use a lot of their fuel.
Right, but I mean, the fuel, I understand that. But if you had a plane...
But hold on. The majority of weight in an aircraft is the fuel.
Okay. And still, though, when you fly that into, say, the top, if you were to divide the World Trade Center, let's say into thirds, and if you were to take the weight of an aircraft plus the luggage, which on a transatlantic flight, which is what I believe they were going for.
No,
so
they're going to California.
Okay, but even then, they're going across country. But say the average luggage on one passenger is, let's say, 30 pounds per passenger. And so if you have 210...
Wait, are you telling me that luggage from a passenger would somehow be more weight than a wooden desk in an office?
Oh, absolutely.
Or a file cabinet full of papers.
They let 40 pounds, I believe 40 pounds or 45, depending on the airplane you're taking. Allegiant, let's say, 40 pounds is their max, and people stretch that out to its limit. Weight and balance is without flying in towers. Weight and balance is an issue because people will pack as much as they can into what they can on their airline.
I'm a pilot. I'm very familiar with
weight and balance. Weight and balance issues. So let's say average 30 pounds luggage on average. So you got people that have less than that, and you got people that have more than that. Plus, you have your average weight of the people. Say it was a full flight on each. And then you have the weight of the aircraft. You can't tell me that towers that high, 110 stories, would be able to support an aircraft full of that landing into it and be able to support that as a structure. There's no way.
Let's talk in real numbers. A Boeing 767 weighs how much, do you think?
I don't know. A lot.
Well, how much is a lot?
I don't know. Quite a bit.
How much is quite a bit?
The engines weigh a lot.
Okay, granted. How much is quite a bit, though?
How much is what?
How much is quite a bit? What do you think it weighs?
I don't know. How much would an aircraft weigh?
Well, maybe 100,000 pounds.
100,000
No,
pounds.
don't listen to those people. They're drunk and they don't know what they're talking about.
Usually not.
Try 400,000 pounds.
It depends on how, I guess, on you said a Boeing's...
747?
Not a 747, did you say a Boeing 6?
It's a 767.
Boeing 6, okay, I'll give you 400,000 pounds. But still, let's think about if the plane were...
Boeing itself.
And say that again?
Getting that from Boeing itself.
That's good. So even then, let's think about if that plane were empty and all it had, let's say it was a mechanical issue and there was one guy on the plane with his carry-on and all that was a bomb.
What are you telling me? The plane was too heavy for the building and the building fell down because of the plane's weight?
An excess 400,000 pounds on the top third of a structure that high?
How much weight?
It'd be more likely to tip over than would it be to collapse.
How much weight do you think those buildings were designed to hold?
A lot. But, and that's what I'm saying, I guess with collapsing on 400,000 pounds, it'd be more likely to tip than it would be to collapse. But, we're not talking about an empty plane.
I won't agree with that either. The World Trade Centers on any given day, on even a non-windy day, deal with a wind load that is massive. When you have a storm go through New York, the wind load on the building is unbelievable, but they're built to dissipate that impact.
Okay.
The wind.
You're talking about a building built in the 60s.
Yes.
Okay.
Have you ever been in the inside the what's the other tall building in New York?
Nope.
Nope.
Not big on the tall buildings in New York.
The Empire State Building?
Nope.
Nope.
Don't want to.
You don't want to?
No. Because it might get blown up or have a plane flew into it.
Yeah, let's look up how many floors in the Empire State Building. And the reason that I asked that, bring this up, is that 103. When was that building built?
God, a long time ago. It was probably built, what, in the 40s, 50s?
Oh, well, it might have been before that. So
I want to say even probably before that, yeah.
But if I listen to your logic on that, why is the building still there? Construction started in 1930. This is a building built in 1930. It is 103 floors. If I listen to what you just said, I would expect it to fall down any day.
No, not necessarily. No, that's not true.
Why not?
But if you were to fly a 747 into it, you might have some problems.
You're going to tell me that a building built in the 60s is
Right.
poorly constructed.
No,
I'm gonna say,
I'm not
why
saying
is
they
the
don't.
building built in the 30s?
My 1923 Victorian, I had to hang from some 2x4s just to get them off. I know that people knew what they were doing back then. I understand that completely. I've never seen stronger construction because I had to try to tear it down myself, and do the demo on it. Believe me, I understand completely that people knew what they were doing, and the construction back then was probably better than it is now. In fact, it most likely is. But
Do you know who held up to the World Trade Center?
what?
Well, is your knowledge, are you going by what we were told by PBS?
No, I don't listen. I don't.
That's probably
I'm not a big PBS person.
because PBS and what was the other one? I forget the name of that magazine, the one that supposedly debunks all this stuff.
No. I actually, honestly, this is all off the top of my head, and I'm not saying that I know anything. I'm just trying to think about it off the top of my head, using what I know. So nobody's ever told me anything about this.
Architects build buildings, tall buildings,
right?
purposely to, one, dissipate any of the forces, the downward forces, and dissipate that